welcome to Chatting with Janine. I'm your host and State Representative Janine Nodder. So last week I had Representative Eric Eastman on. He's the representative from Nashua, who's also an actor and a director, but we're in politics, so that's mostly what we talked about. So he may be popping up on someone else's show to talk about his actual acting career, since we didn't really get to it. So this week I have another colleague on. This is Representative James Splain from the same row that I sit in the State House, so welcome.
Welcome.
And so James, what town do you represent?
I represent Deerfield, Candia, and Nottingham.
Nottingham. Well, you're on Janine Nodder's show. That's kind of like being in Nottingham.
It is. Actually, it feels more like we're sitting in our session, because except you're normally on the other side of me, and we have Democrats in front of us and behind us.
I know, you never saw this side of me before, huh?
No.
Because you're always on that side.
Totally different side of you.
Yeah. We sit in a block, just to explain, of 5 Republicans in a row. It's very nice, because we're all mixed in, and we've got liberals all around us, and you've got to sit next to a couple of Democrats on the other side.
I've got Democrats directly to the left of me, which is where they belong.
Where they belong, yes.
Where they belong. But the way that they've got us staggered, it also means that we've got Democrats right in front of us and Democrats right behind us.
But that young kid in front of us, Sweeney?
Yeah.
I can't think of his first name. He's a Republican, because we can see their buttons while they're voting.
He is, and I believe he's also a friend of Yvonne Dean Bailey's, who's from my float district.
She's a new
Another young, she won the special election to replace Brian Dobson when he went to work for Ginta.
Oh, okay.
So,
yep, I remember that. Yeah.
She's finishing off. Brian never actually started his term, so her special election was right at the beginning of the term. So she's really finishing off a term that she didn't have to run for, but this will be her first real election coming up that she'll have to run for re-election.
Well, my first term, we had a supermajority Republicans, and there were a lot of dads like you in the House serving. Some were single dads working, trying to work full time. They used up all of their vacation, all of their sick days to serve in the House. And a lot of them didn't come back because it was just too much of a sacrifice.
It's really tough.
And if you look at a picture of the House, it's mostly retired people, and that's why.
That's one of the things we've been dinged on quite a lot from some of the media and other states, where they say, we've got an ancient representative body.
And they're not talking about the House, yeah.
Second largest one, but it is a lot of older people because, and in fact, I was told for many years when I was interested in running that I couldn't do it till I was retired because you just won't have the time. But things got to the point where I just said, I've got to do it. I'll make the time. If you want it bad enough, you make the time for it. And it is tough working full time and still making time to be there and deal with all the critical stuff that's going on up there.
So this is coming to the end of your first term. How do your expectations line up with the reality of serving in the House?
We had a trial by fire. Seriously, coming into that House with the turmoil that we had on Organization Day and everything.
I've never talked about it on my show, so the viewers probably don't even know. Most of them probably don't even know what happened.
The chaos was far beyond anything that I had ever been prepared for. And,
none of us were.
And the chaos has calmed a bit, but it still continues now. I have hopes that next term will be a little different, that things will have smoothed out.
But the same people, if you have the same people there, and if they don't like the speaker, they can do the same thing and make a deal with the Democrats, and the Democrats plus a handful of Republicans is the majority, then it's going to be the same thing. So it's amazing that we got any Republican bills passed this year.
It is. I thought coming into this that we were just going to have a stagnant year and basically not get anything done because there was so much controversy. But
we did all come together on the budget the first year, which is one of the most important things that the House does, if not the most important thing the House does. But there were meetings between the conservative caucus, where we don't have, whatever you want to call them, the ones that are very conservative. They met with the leadership and said, look, we're only going to vote with you on your budget if you include the following. So that's what happened with that.
Yep. And, I got taken to task by at least one newspaper after we went to finally pass the budget 3 months after the governor vetoed it for saying at the well, the governor could have had her money 3 months ago because this is the same exact budget we gave her 3 months ago, and now we're here voting on it again.
Right.
But now
she gets the credit for it.
There was no lie in that. That was the same exact budget we'd given her. We worked for 3 months on a continuing resolution to keep the government running while we tried to come to terms, and she ended up passing the same budget that she could have had 3 months earlier. So we could have been fighting this heroin problem a lot sooner. We could have been dealing with all these other issues sooner, but politics got in the way of it, and that budget stalled 3 months.
Right. So I titled today's show Good, Bad, and Ugly Bills in the House. So we just finished up that marathon session where 2 12-hour days in a row. I don't know about you, but I was exhausted the next day.
By the end of the second day, I had people telling me on the House floor, "Boy, you don't look very good." And I'm said, just tired. It's been 2 long days.
I talked to Representative Barbara Biggie, and she serves, I think she's in Amherst, Milford, that area. She said she couldn't even get up on Friday morning, and I said, well, I went to the gym, but I came home and it was nice out. I went outside, I was going to read. I fell asleep in my backyard. I woke up an hour later. I like, gosh, I'm tired.
Had to work.
It's mentally draining. And Tony Pellegrino of Merrimack, we carpooled last week, and he said it's mentally draining. It is.
It's very mentally draining. It's 2 12-hour days there were equivalent to a week worth of work. It really was. And
you said you worked the
and
next
I had
day?
to get up on Friday morning and get into work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So
oh my gosh.
yeah, I didn't have a break.
Wow. So there we go. When I said, sacrifice to serve in the House when you're not retired, really
Saturday
is.
felt really good coming because I finally got a chance to have some downtime.
Right.
But yeah, it was. Those were a rough 2 days, but as you were saying, good, bad, ugly bills. One of the good bills we got through was the one I was telling you about,
Yep,
the suppressor bill.
So are you the prime sponsor of the suppressor bill?
I'm not. John Burt is.
Oh, we're in the John Burt Society. Yes,
But-
our friend John Burt.
But John
represents
Burt was working with
Goffstown.
me because I'm on the Fish and Game Committee,
Right.
and so he was working with me to get it through the Fish and Game Committee, and I put in quite a lot of work in that committee to get this bill through the committee and out of committee ought to pass, and then to get it passed on the House floor. So when it went into the Senate, you probably noticed that I was missing from session on Thursday morning for a while. Well,
Couple hours.
It
Well,
was a
maybe
couple
an
of
hour and a half.
hours.
Was it an
Well,
hour and
yeah,
a half?
maybe an
Yeah.
hour and a half. But I was down in the Senate chambers to testify for the committee from the Senate that was hearing the bill. And I was real happy to see that come out of that committee 4-0 in favor.
So what is a suppressor bill? Some people might not know.
Well, the suppressor bill is a bill that that John put forward and we advocated for, that would allow hunters to put a suppressor on their rifles when they're hunting. And there was a bunch of anti-hunters that were against it because they said it's not fair to the game. But to be honest, you're taking one shot. What this whole thing came down to, and this is the whole argument, it's about hunters' health. Because one gunshot is loud enough that it causes irreparable hearing damage. The repeated gunshots of many years of hunting cause hunters to lose hearing. Causes hunting dogs to lose hearing even faster because they have a much more sensitive hearing, and it does more damage each time a gunshot goes off.
That's why there's no dogs on The Walking Dead.
That could be. But the suppressor basically doesn't silence a gun. All of that's myth. That's TV myth. What it does is it brings the volume down from about 180 decibels down to the threshold of 120, 130 decibels where you're not causing irreparable hearing damage. So it's bringing it from a loud explosion down to about the lawnmower engine or motorcycle volume.
I was going to ask, give
Yeah.
me an example.
A loud
'cause
a loud
you know
motorcycle
what's
or-
loud is the blender. I have a parrot. You've heard about my parrot.
Yep.
My parrot does not like it when I turn on the blender. She's afraid of most of the appliances. Anytime I reach for something, she knows what's going to happen. The noise is coming, and she gets upset.
Well, we're joining now 38 other states. There's 38 other states that have already adopted this bill and allowed hunters to use suppressors. Buying a suppressor is still a very complicated thing. You have to go through Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms clearance. That takes a $200 tax stamp you pay for right away. You have to put in your application with the BATF, and before you do that, you have to actually put the money down for the suppressor. If you go to the gun store, they'll make you pay up front for the suppressor 100%, which is about $1,000, sometimes more. And the process of getting cleared can take, they say, as little as 3 months, but I've never seen that. And the stores have told me it's stretching out between 9 and 12 months now. The entire time you're in that process, the store's just holding your money, interest-free, and you're waiting. And if you get denied, the store gives you your money back. But if you get approved, you get your suppressor. After all of that work, nobody's going to be using these suppressors to go out and jack deer or poach deer. The suppressors are being used by responsible hunters, ones that are willing to make that investment to make sure that their children that they take out in the woods, and we did hear from one person in the Senate who's a grandfather, he said, and he was wearing 2 hearing aids. He had actually undergone such hearing damage over the years of shooting and hunting that his audiologist had told him no more guns, and he invested in a suppressor, but he could only use it on the range because they are legal in New Hampshire to use on the gun range or in your yard or what have you. You just can't hunt with it. He said, I won't take my grandson out in the woods and teach him to hunt like I really want to, and I've had to give up hunting myself unless this bill passes because I don't want my grandson to end up with the same hearing damage that I have.
Wow.
And I've had the same.
Which senator is it?
It wasn't a senator. It was just a gentleman who moved
okay.
to New Hampshire. He originally grew up in Vermont, and he moved to New Hampshire, and he'd lived in New Hampshire his whole life, hunting and shooting, and found as he got older that his hearing loss was decreasing rapidly. And they said, well, it was all the damage you did when you were younger. You don't notice it right away. It's one of those things where it just, every time you get that damage from the gunshot, it adds a little more onto it, and it's a cumulative effect.
I blame loud music in the 80s on my hearing.
You know, that can be up in the same dangerous area for the volume of decibels, but 180 decibels, 160 decibels from a gunshot, those ranges are really dangerous for the ears. And, you know, on the range you can wear hearing protection, but when you're hunting, you need all your senses. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. And that one gunshot does cause damage. And I have kids, and I don't want, if I have a chance to pass this bill so that my kids have a chance to make an investment and preserve their hearing, I'm gonna do that, and that's one of the reasons I've been a proponent of it. You might ask why 38 other states have joined. They also are taking the lead from, if you look at Europe and the UK, where we usually picture the strictest gun laws in the world, they mandate suppressors for hunting. And one of the reasons the UK ended up in the position where they mandate the suppressors for hunting now is because they had a class action lawsuit that all the sportsmen and hunters in the UK brought against the Crown and the government. And they said the technology is out there for us to be protected from the hearing damage, but the government is prohibiting us from using the technology, so therefore the government is indirectly inflicting that damage on us directly. And they won their lawsuit. So the government had to agree at that point to let them use suppressors, and they said, if we're going to agree to let you use it because it's a health situation, we actually ought to mandate that they be used when hunting. And they found that not only does it protect the hearing, it makes for better neighbors because they're not hearing gunshots go off all the time. One of the things I like to akin it to is if you knew that seatbelts existed as a technology, but the government told you you can't wear one.
Yeah, that's a good analogy there.
Yeah.
Do you think the governor will sign the bill?
That's questionable. We've got a good amount of Democrat support behind this as well because it is a health issue. If she looks at it from the health issue, I don't think she should have a problem, especially with 38 other states. But politics can get in the way of anything good. So
you obviously watched The Walking Dead because you caught my joke about the dogs. You know, we always wonder, like, how did the zombies sneak up on people? Don't they hear them? Well, now it makes sense. With the guns going off, their hearing is shot, and that's how the zombies come up and bite them.
You know, that show would be a lot...
I don't know why I watch it. It's gory, it's gross, I end up doing this, but I watch it. Yeah. That's part of the ugly. No, but there was no zombie bill. But if there was, it would be ugly.
If there was, it would be.
Now, all in one day last week, we had bill on bestiality, prostitution, marijuana, and flamethrowing.
Flamethrowers.
Yeah, all in one day. Isn't that nice?
2 of those bills were the same rep that put them in.
Who put them in?
Representative Rogers out of Concord put in the flamethrower and the
Catherine Rogers. She
Catherine
was
Rogers.
the one that had that bad gun bill oh my gosh.
She put in the bestiality bill and she put in the flamethrower bill.
So the bestiality bill is to make it illegal, right?
Yes, it's not.
And
It's not proposing that.
You know, we really should have called for a roll call because that would have been fun to see. who
It was a
voted
division,
against
was it not?
It was a division vote. I probably have it
And
here.
there were like
I have the
5
calendar.
people who voted against it, but we're all looking around going, how can you vote against this?
I know. We should have done a roll call to find out who they are. Like, throw them out of office if they. Ugh. And then which committee was that? Was that criminal justice?
The bestiality, I think it was criminal justice that it had to go through, yes. It wasn't Fish and Game.
It wasn't Fish and Game. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Fish and Game, are you running again next year?
I am.
Because Bob LaRue from Merrimack, he's running again. He was a state rep for 20 years, and that was his committee.
Well, we need
So
some good people on there because
you'll get to meet him.
there was a lot of time this year in committees that we had
Children
people
and
missing.
Family Law.
So
See, I've got, I always keep track of the votes on this side. Criminal justice, and some of these I don't have marked because of the speed session, which we're going to talk about next, but I can't even find it, this bestiality bill. We'll just move on. We don't need to talk about it. It passed. It's illegal, so don't even think about it.
well, it's still got to pass through the Senate, but I can't imagine any of those voting against it
I
either.
can't imagine the governor vetoing such a bill either.
No.
Prostitution didn't pass. Sorry, still illegal.
Yeah, you know, the bestiality bill didn't tackle the issue with insects or arachnids, trees,
Insects.
Trees, mosses. You know, those are all still fair game.
I don't even want to think about that. Well, you know, looking at the calendar, which I'm sure you've seen this before, if not on my show, other shows, we have these blue pages. I was talking to the cameraman earlier. This is the consent calendar. These are bills that all passed in committee with
Unanimous,
no fuss.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe one person objected. I'm sure there's some bills from my committee in here where I was the one objection, the pipeline bills, and they're on consent. And they pass with a voice vote. I never vote on the consent calendar when they say all those in favor say aye. I'm always silent because sometimes I might miss something, or there might be something here that I don't agree to, but not enough that I want to get up and try to fight it. So we do get picked on, I suppose, is the right term, for trying to fight bills that we know can't pass.
Yep.
So I had one bill that I was the prime sponsor of this year, and that was relative to rebates to ratepayers from the Renewable Energy Fund.
Right.
Because it is socialism. It is, okay. You know, they take all this money from people and give it to someone else. who
Special
started
interest
business.
groups.
Right, and then they get to sell their profits to Massachusetts. Well, my bill would have said, give the profits back to the ratepayers.
Yep.
And of course, everyone, ones on my committee, they didn't agree with it. They said, but it's such a minuscule amount. It's not worth it. I'm like, but every tax and fee you're going to say is a minuscule amount, but they all add up to a sizable chunk out of your wallet.
And that's how they get through there, because
Right.
all these little bills are, it's just a small amount. And you see it in local budgets too. We just went through budget season for the local budgets end of last year, and then we just voted on our budgets. And I sit on the budget committee. And there's so many times that we'll come up and question. One of my things that I like to do is historically look at the spending, the actual spending on a budgeted line item. And if that's what flags me. If I see a line's constantly allocated at $20,000 and yet they never spend more than $3,000 on it, I consider that bad budgeting. And I'll bring up, well, why is that being budgeted? So such a small amount. Why are you even bothering with that?
Right, but it all adds up.
Find enough of those and that adds up.
When I got up to speak on the bill, because this would have been one that would have just passed without debate. It would have just, on the speed session, which I'm going to get to, and we have 7 minutes left. I'm going to get to that speed session. But I did get up and fought for it, and I made sure that the speaker heard me say, I know I can't overturn the committee report. I'm standing up here on principle because this is something I ran on. I ran on smaller government, less taxes and fees. And I don't believe in the redistribution of wealth and subsidies and all that. I mean, maybe, there's an exception for every rule. But this was just one thing. You have to chip away. And I said that in my floor speech, too. You have to chip away. So I was going to ask for a division vote, but Americans for Prosperity actually told somebody, can you get a roll call on that? So there was a roll call, and I got 127 votes, which is better than the 3 I got in my committee.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
But 203 voted against it. So my thanks to Chris Christensen, Dick Berry, and Josh Moore of Merrimack who voted with me on this. So
That's still not bad. For the attendance we
It was-
had there to come out 173 to 200 and... How much was it?
203 to 127. So I
203
lost.
to 127.
67 didn't vote.
Yeah,
Still Straight was sick that day.
That's still not bad.
We had a number of bills like this, with numbers like that, on the calendar that wouldn't have passed, and it didn't pass, but I stood up on principle. And just to get through them, because we had 500 bills, we had a speed session. So our speaker, I think he was an auctioneer before he was a state representative.
Certainly seemed it at the time.
Right. So I mean, we were kind of having fun, and it was like because he was going so fast, like sold, and on to the next bill and sold. But then after a few bills, it's like, whoa, actually, we don't know what we're voting on. There's several bills in here. I don't have the number. I don't have that it passed because I don't know. He was going too fast.
Right. And he did that. He said for all the bills that we
Didn't have a debate on.
that we had nobody signed up to debate them, and nobody had said they were going to speak on them to get them out of the way so that we wouldn't have to be here as long. But it went quick. It
Right.
really did go fast.
So I'm going to turn it on, and Justin's going to zoom in, and I'm going to play it. And this is where we sit. So this is our view in the House, and this is our auctioning off these bills. So I'm giggling. I did vote on this bill. It's crazy. And then you start to say that the clerk's wife's going to labor. She still hasn't had that baby, by the way. So what you just heard was an amendment passed. I don't know what the amendment was. And then the bill.
Yeah,
the
there was a
bill
committee
passed.
amendment on the bill, and there was no debate on the committee amendment and no debate on the bill, so he put it through the speed
But
session.
the number was up, and I heard myself vote, so I must have known what we were voting on there. But after that, I lost my place.
I think that was one of the worst parts of the speed session, though, is the fact that the numbers weren't scrolling fast enough. There were times when the numbers
When there
weren't
was no
changing,
number, and
we
then-
were trying to see what number we were on, and there was nothing being displayed. And he was speaking so fast that you couldn't catch the number all the time. So that was a drawback to it. But
This is small, Justin, but can you zoom in on this? Because this is my row. We are missing one person in this row, but this is a row, 4 out of 5 Republicans that sit all in a row. And I believe your mother on Facebook called you a puppy.
yes,
Like, what? Okay, you're younger than everybody else in the row. Well, I'm the youngest female. I'm the youngest female in the row.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are my seatmates. I'm going to turn this
You could
back
probably see on there too my Democratic seatmate that I was sitting one seat away from
Oh,
because
right.
she was
She
wearing
had
her
the
mask.
She had the plague that day.
She had the plague.
And she
Yes.
got offended by us calling it the plague. But she was taking antibiotics, but she wasn't going to be.
She wasn't going to be
Non-contagious.
non-contagious for another number of hours.
Right.
And I had to actually go to the speaker and explain why I was in a different seat, but still
Just-
voting on my terminal.
Right. So you were right next to me instead of having the seat between us. So I lost the seat where when he's not there, I get to throw all my stuff because I have luggage. I'm female. I always have luggage. You know, my lunch and my bag and.
Yeah, and instead I had to pass it over me every time you needed
Every
something.
time I needed something,
Yeah.
right? And in committee, the guy that sits next to me always laughs and said, "You know, I bet if I had a flat tire, you'd pull a jack out of that bag." I'm like, "Yeah, probably." I don't carry a jack. One thing I don't have, but you know, I bet the lady behind me has the same. No. She needed glasses, and I had extra glasses.
You had extra glasses.
Well, there was one day I forgot my glasses, so I had to wear my prescription sunglasses, and everyone kept asking, "Why are you wearing glasses?" I said, "Because I needed a nap today." It wasn't true, but I couldn't see the numbers because it was shaded. It's like trying to look at your phone in the sun with
yeah.
the sunglasses on. So we have 2 minutes left. So a good, bad, we got the good bill in. Bad bill was Medicaid expansion, but you know, that'd be a whole other show.
Yeah, we'd need a whole other show for that one.
Yeah,
That was the worst bill.
Yeah, and I did not support it. I did not.
No, neither did I. Nor did I support putting back in the severability clause.
That's the worst thing. That takes out the mandate that they'd have to look for work.
Well, it allows the government to strip it out, and the government has never supported it to date. So
Able-bodied people, no children, they're going to get welfare now.
we have no guarantee that the government's not going to strip it out again, because they've done it to date for every bill that somebody's tried to put a work requirement on. So you've got able-bodied people who qualify. We have heard from 2 reps who qualify, even though they've got...
Oh, and his assets, he's about millions in assets, but he doesn't have an income, so
right,
he
so
qualifies.
he can qualify. Yeah.
That's ugly. That's
Taxpayers
ugly.
can buy medical insurance for somebody with millions of dollars of assets because he has no income now, because he qualifies for Medicaid expansion if this ends up going through the Senate.
Well, we'll have to discuss if we want to do another show just so we can cover that and anything else. But thanks for being on the show and
Thanks for
coming to
having me.
Merrimack. And happy St. Patrick's Day to you and to the viewers. And be sure that this will play after St. Patrick's Day, but I hope you observed the wearing of the green on St. Patty's Day.
I always do. And let me make a shout out to my son, too. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday.
He's 11. William.
That's fun. 2 ones. That's a good age. I remember 11. When I was 11, it was Matchbox cars and mud pies all the way. I wasn't a dolly and dresses little girl. Yeah.
I can picture that.
My boys think I was a boy when I was younger. I'm like, I really wasn't. Anyway, TMI. We'll see you next time.